Hello, in this video, we're going to talk about how you can calculate and how you can determine the slope-intercept equation for a graph. So first, graphing topics, the three things we're going to talk about. One, how do you determine the slope of a line? Two, how can you figure out what the y-intercept is, where a line crosses the y-axis? And then the third thing, how do you graph a line given its linear equation or its slope-intercept equation? In terms of content and language targets or objectives, the content target is I can calculate the slope and y-intercept of a line. And then the language target, I can write my own step-by-step procedure for finding the slope-intercept equation for a line. So first, the more difficult of the two concepts that we're going to talk about is how do you calculate slope? And so the slope of a line is like the steepness of a line. And the easiest way to figure out what the slope is, you're going to have to figure out how much the graph goes up and how much a given line moves over. So the rise and then run of a given graph. The first step to that is to find two good points. And what a good point is any point on a line that lines up directly with values that are shown on the y-axis, the vertical axis, and then the horizontal axis or the x-axis. And so these two are good points because you can see they line up with 16 and 4 here, line up with 2 and 10. It's not some point like here where it doesn't directly cross a grid point on the graph, if that makes any sense. And so it explains, pick two good points. Step two, it says circle the x and y coordinates for both points. And so again, you can skip this once you feel comfortable, but if you circle the x and y components, it's really easy to work with a few numbers at the same time. And then what you're going to do is find the delta y and delta x. This delta, this triangle symbol here, what that means is the change. And so the change is going to be what you end up with minus what you start. And so this change in y here, you can see that you end up with a point at 16 and you start with a point at 10. And so 16 minus 10 is 6. That's your rise, how much your graph moves up between 2 points. And then the run is your change in x, your delta x. And so what that is again, where you end up in your x value minus what you start with in your x value. And so 4 minus 2 is 2. Finally, what you do to calculate the slope is you just take the rise, how much you go up over the run. And so 6 divided by 2 gives you a slope of 3. The second thing that we're going to talk about with slope-intercept form, we're going to use PhET. This PhET, there will be a link to this where you can find it, but it's just some software that shows this, illustrates it for you visual learners pretty well. And what slope-intercept form involves is rise over run that we just talked about, that's shown in blue here, a rise of 2, a run of 3. And so your slope is 2/3. And then the B, the intercept, shown in pink here, is where your line crosses the vertical axis, the up and down axis, the y-axis. And so what you can see here, this one's kind of simple to figure out. You just find the point at which this line crosses the y-axis. And so as I move this up and down, right now it's at 0. And so our B value, where it crosses the y-axis, is 0. If I move this up 1, 2, you can see that my B value is now 2. And so this PhET software that I'll show you later, provide you a link to later, it has two different things in here. And the first just lets you mess with the slope of a line. And so you can see visually using the blue and the pink here, what's happening to the slope, what's happening to the y-intercept. And then the last thing where you're going to get some practice here is you folks are going to play around with this line game. And so your homework, your assignment here, is you're going to complete 2 of the 4 different levels of the line game, scoring at least 9 stars and submitting a screen snip of your results. If you need to retry this as many times as you want. It'll always give you some different questions. And what you're going to do then for the assignment is write your own step-by-step process for finding the linear equation of a line given a graph. And so to show you what this will look like for level 1, it will say set the y-intercept. And so you look at the graph here, it says the slope is 3/4, meaning you go, if you find good points, up 3 and over 4. So that's what the slope is. And then the y-intercept, it's again where this line crosses the y-axis. You can see this is 0, 1, 2, 3. And so you would see here that your y-intercept is 3. Hit the check button to provide you a real loud ring. And you get 2 points if you get things correct the first time, 1 point if you get things correct the second time. And so again, your challenge is to go through and to complete 2 of the 4 levels with at least 9 stars, and then take a screen snip. The assignment's on Canvas. If you have any questions, please feel free to stop by for the office hours to ask for some help. Of course, email if that's more convenient for you, and I'll get back to you whenever I can. Thank you.